Welcome to the Bike Talk with Dave podcast. I'm your host, Dave Mabel. Thanks for tuning in. This week, we've got a full whack roadie, Cade Bickmore. So you probably know, if you listen to this a few times, that I cut my teeth racing road, crits mostly. I was always pretty decent locally. I never made it past the threes, but I loved it. Cycling was my thing. Even when Dee and I ran a summer camp outside of Cleveland, Ohio, I found time each day to sneak out for a ride. And while I never raced at the top level, I was a geek for sure. I went out to watch a few stages of the Coors Classic a few times. I had a subscription to Winning Magazine. I still have every issue. My heroes were Greg LeMond, Davis Finney, Andy Hampston, Bob Roll, pretty much everyone who was pictured in Graham Watson's book, Visions of Cycling. Road racing was king. So it kind of saddens me when there's no major tour in the U.S. No Tour of California, Tour of Georgia. I don't know if you remember the Coors States U.S. Pro Championships in Philly. And the U.S. Pro Cycling Challenge was the great Coors Classic comeback until it wasn't. Big races continue to disappear, and it makes me sad. Joe Martin Stage Race is out, and even the NCL with its million-dollar investors and exciting new made-for-TV format, gone. So when a guy like Cade shows up at a friend of mine's birthday party 2 days after he stomps the fields at the long-running Memorial Weekend races along the Mississippi River, I gotta have him on my pod. He's racing road with one of the top teams in the country, Project Echelon, and he and his teammates are making road racing great again. So let's get right to it. Without any further ado, Cade Bickmore. Cade Bickmore, hashtag Bikemore. I love your email address. Hashtag Mr. Wattmeister, the master of watts, the Wattaholic. Cade, welcome to Bike Talk with Dave. Holy moly, man. You just came off a Snake Alley victory, and Project Echelon posted your max watts, sustained watts, 10-second watts, 5-second watts.
Yeah.
I mean, my car can do that, but holy moly, where'd you find all those watts, man?
You know, it was a PR. Actually, those numbers were from the Quick Start crit on Monday.
Quick Start, that's right. How do you find 1,700 watts? Well, no, that goes uphill. Never mind. 1,000 years ago, Monday of Memorial Weekend was flat as a pancake. So in my head, that's where we still are. But yeah, no, there's some good climbing in Davenport, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's actually like a perfect sprint to hit a PR because you come in super fast through the corner, and then your speed almost doesn't change from the corner to the finish line because it's because of the hill, and so it's you don't have to shift. You're just like laying down the watts. So if you're in the right gear, then it's a good time to hit a PR.
Oh, that's awesome. You had a great weekend, Memorial Weekend. 3 out of the 4 races, you were on the top step of the podium. Snake Alley is a favorite, not just of mine, but of many people who have come through Burlington in their rise to World Tour or whatever. But because a lot of guys have honestly come through Burlington and the Snake Alley. And I read that, like, you dreamt of Snake Alley for the past 10 years. Your first time was a couple of years ago, and a decade before that, you were dreaming of Snake Alley. I'm curious, being from Colorado, Longmont, Colorado, like, why Snake Alley? Where'd you come up with that? Why? Like, that's pretty curious to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think to put it in perspective, I have dreamt of a lot of races, so it's not just Snake Alley, but it's it's a legendary race, I think, in the US. Like, just different people that I'd been around growing up had won there or, talked about racing there. And so it was always this race that I had heard about, never been able to do it. And then, yeah, finally took my first stab at it 2 years ago and then uh, come back both years since.
That's awesome. So you were, I don't know, somewhere, I'm guessing around 14, 15. So you're a teenager, solidly a teenager in those days. Were you racing then?
Yeah, I was. I started racing when I was 8, so I've been
Oh, wow.
racing most of my life.
What got you started at 8 years old? That's pretty unique.
Yeah, my dad got me into it. My dad used to race and used to be very involved in still is very involved in the Colorado scene. While I was growing up, he served as the president of the board for a couple of years for Bicycle Racing Association of Colorado. So yeah, my dad was huge getting me into the sport and let me find my way starting
Did you
very young.
start did you start on a road bike or was it mountain bike or cross?
Cross started on a cross bike, and then I did so started in a cross season, and then did cross and road mostly um, every year growing up. Did a little bit of track in there, but I rode a cross bike for both cross and road until I think I was 16. Then I got my first like proper road bike, but the cross bike gets both done pretty well.
It does. You just swap the tires out and get her done. Yeah, a
Yeah,
little longer, a little cruisier around the corners maybe, but yeah, fully fully capable steed for sure
yeah.
on the road. Um, when when did you know that you were decent?
I mean, I won some races when I was 8, so that's like a good sign, I guess. But you're 8 years old, so who really knows what that means for the future? Um, but I was always competitive, one of the top finishers in the Colorado scene, and then placing in the top 10 a lot at junior nationals, although it took me forever. I never found a top 5 at a junior nationals, but I was always right on the cusp there. And then, uh, yeah, got recruited by Marion for college, so that's a good sign. And then, but I think I didn't realize that I could be competitive like at the elite level until my second or third year of college at Marion. Then I like really started to hit my stride in the Cat Ones. Won the Cat 1-2 Omnium at Tulsa. That was kind of the turning point for me of like realizing I can compete at this top level. And obviously there's another step up there to the Pro 1 field, but that was a good sign going forward.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big race. Marion has, there's a lot of really good talent that comes out of Marion. They do a good job of recruiting, training, coaching, probably a combination of all of that to help people kind of get to the next level. Who was in your quote unquote class
Yeah,
at Marion?
I had Ugo Scala, who's my now teammate at Project Echelon. He was my roommate for for 3 of the 5 years I was there. So yeah, we've been really tight. But he was in my class. Thomas Rivard came in on my class, although he didn't finish school there. Um, Peter Bach, he had some success on the track. He was part of the track sprint program and everything for a while there. Um, and then on the women's side, like Marta Morris and Rachel Cross. Yeah, a lot of, I don't know. To me, they're like the notable names from when I was growing up doing junior racing. Like it's a lot of people who were always in that top 10 at junior nationals kind of thing, and then found some success also later on.
Was it kind of cool when you stepped onto the campus at Marion to like be hanging with folks you've been racing against?
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool. Some of them I had already built a relationship with growing up, and then some of them I kind of knew the name, but like hadn't met them, hadn't hung out with them, and it was cool to get to know those people too.
Sweet. So Marion led you to say it for me, Evolo.
Yeah, Evola.
I always trip on that AE
Yeah,
of on the front of it, Evolo.
a lot of people want to call it a velo, but it's
Well,
a
it's an O.
volo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, how was your time there? How'd you get recruited there? And you spent a few years with them. What went on there? How big a deal was that in your development? It was Devo team, and that's kind of the objective is to help
Yeah,
kids transition from college to where you are today.
yeah. Evola is huge. Like that really, I the year before that was when I won Tulsa Omnium, and then um, I got really lucky. Mike Creed, the director for Evola, came to Collegiate Track Nationals in Colorado Springs because he was living there at the time, and was scouting some people. And I wasn't even on his scouting list, really, I don't think. But I had a really good week there, and I won 5 national titles. So that started our conversation, and that's how I ended up getting recruited. And then yeah, that Avola was huge for getting to me where I am today. I don't think I would be anywhere close without Mike Creed's leadership and all the other people that I met through that program. Yeah,
Awesome.
my first race with them was Tour Columbia, and I was like racing against Chris Froome. After my biggest race up to that point was like, I don't know, probably there's one UCI road race at BC Super Week that I did, and I was barely hanging on there. And then the next UCI race I do is Tour Columbia. All the big names were there that year, it seemed like. But just getting thrown straight into the deep end, that was like just that. That's when I realized, okay, this is different, and I need to step up to the plate now.
Yeah, there was an obvious like next level.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Um, I wanted to ask you about that. You were dreaming of Snake Alley 12 years ago, but you've raced all over the freaking world. Did you ever dream about racing in Greece?
I can't say I really thought that much about racing in Greece growing up. Definitely Belgium, France, Italy, and not to say that racing in Greece isn't big or wasn't a great experience, but it just wasn't really on the radar of races that I was aware of.
I I 100% hear you. I'm like looking at some of your stats and stuff, and I'm like, is that the Greek flag? Greece? Big. That's cool, man. That's like that is unique. Like that, I don't think any of us think. Just like you said, we dream of Belgium and France and Italy and Spain, but Greece? How
Yeah.
was it in Greece? What was it like?
It was really pretty. We were just on the island of Rhodes, which is pretty small. It was really like rocky, which I just hadn't seen that much of before. Like on an island, it's not really uh, the terrain I am used to or would expect. But no, it was really cool, really beautiful, really nice weather, and hard racing. The hills were super steep, And yeah, those races were super hard.
Did you have a sense, did you have a feel for the history of athletics when you were there? Or are you like, oh man, look at that profile?
Yeah, I mean, not so much. Like we weren't in Athens or anything where the
There's
Olympics
some
and all that
history
were
in
going.
roads,
But
man.
yeah,
I mean, that island has a little, I don't know, 5,000 year history or whatever, but you're right, it's not
sure.
Athens.
I guess I wasn't that aware of that.
Fair enough, fair
More
enough.
more occupied with the racing coming up.
Uh, Good job. I mean, that's probably where you should be.
Yeah.
You've also, I mean, Guadalupe, Spain, France, Colombia, you mentioned, Canada, Australia, literally all over the world. Do you have a place that was a favorite place to be as far as a country? Are you like, man, I got to come back here when I'm not racing?
I thought Colombia was really cool. Um,
Huh.
Colombia is definitely a place I want to explore more. I mean, really all of them I want to explore more. I love getting out and going for an adventure. I think that's why I like the bike so much. And yeah, on race trips, I don't really get to see all that much off the bike, or like even on the bike in a casual setting. It's pretty much just go to the hotel, go to the race. We might have a day on either end to hang out a little bit more, but not so much time for leisure activities.
If uh, if I can uh, guess on your hanging out days, like a lot of time it's just hanging out in the garage, like washing bikes, changing chains, changing wheels, stuff like that of wherever you're staying. But typically, you're not walking around with a camera around your neck and sipping the local drinks on
Yeah,
that one day off.
no, especially if it's before the race. Usually we get there a couple days before, but it's all like resting and getting in a little bit of riding and stuff. And yeah, making sure equipment and everything is dialed, but not not taking personal time really. Like any personal time you have is just laying down in the hotel bed, and then yeah, and then usually we're out of there as soon as we can after the race. Um, get back home, get some rest.
Dig it. So you're not a tourist when you go to these places, but you have to have a favorite race around the world, aside from the U.S. Because I know Snake Alley is probably your favorite, or maybe I don't know Waterworks. Have you ever been to Waterworks? Is
I haven't been to Waterworks yet.
You got to come to Waterworks and really race the big hills.
Yeah.
Um, Favorite race over the years?
I mean, it changes, I would say. Um, Snake Alley is definitely up there. I love coming to that one. And it feels good to win. And I've been lucky to win there the last 2 years and second place to a teammate the year before that. So, um, you know, I love that one. Uh, I yeah, I love racing over in Europe. Any chance I can get to get starts over there, all of those races are super cool. The Volta Alentejo this year, that was really fun. Some really hard technical finishes on those stages, like a lot of cobbled roads and things, tight roads, road furniture, all of that. That race was really fun. I don't know if it's like my favorite in the sense that I want to go back really badly, but it was a really fun race to do.
Out of all that you've done, do you have a best day on the bike? A day that like comes to your memory? It's like, man, I'm gonna tell my grandkids about this day.
Um, I don't know. Results in those good days are a little bit fleeting. Um, I think the stage I won in Guadalupe last year, that was really big for me because it was my first UCI road race win. I mean, I won the crit at Gila. That was like my first UCI win, but that's not like a true road race. So, last year I was really on the hunt for that true road stage win. So that was really big for me.
Dig it. Worst day on a bike?
There's a lot of those. Uh,
Unfortunately, uh,
yeah,
unfortunately, those days are the make the best stories.
yeah. Um, Pronouns this year was pretty disappointing for me. Crashed out on the first lap and chased for about a half lap. And on that course, there's like nowhere to even chase because there's two hills every lap. And the lap's not that long. And me and Cole Davis were chasing together after the crash and both looked at each other and were like, we're 3 minutes down after chasing half lap as hard as we can. It's not worth it. So, that's a bummer, but it didn't last that long. Um, there's definitely been more torturous days on the bike. When I did Unbound in 2019, that was a that was a heck of an adventure. I was like cramping up 4 hours in, and still I ended up being out there another 9 hours if you include the time at rest stops, and that was just absolutely brutal. But in a lot of ways, it's one of my favorite days on the bike. Um, just I learned a lot about myself that day.
I don't know if I heard you right. You were out there 4 hours and then an additional 9 hours?
Yeah, I think my finish time was like 13:30 that year. Um,
That's a long day.
Very long day. Yeah, I think my ride time was only like 11 and a half hours, but I was so wrecked at the second feed zone at like 150 miles in. I sat down and had like a three-course meal and like had to
Set
completely
up a tent
reset
and take a
before.
nap?
Yeah, just about.
Oh, that's crazy. Why? What was so hard about it? I just came back from there.
I mean, for me, especially that year, I just didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I'd never ridden more than 130 miles probably, and that was like on the road. So doing 200 miles of gravel, obviously a lot different. And I was just a pretty excited, naive 21-year-old just going out there. The first 3 or 4 hours, I was like swapping poles with Keel Reinen and Alex Howe. I was on the front of the front group. And then the lights kind of went out after 4 hours, which is to be expected because I was all the racing I was doing. And then I was like, oh man, I still have 100 something miles to go to finish this thing. Uh, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a brutally hot. Well, the year I did it was a brutally hot day. Um, I didn't have a great nutrition plan. I didn't conserve very much in the beginning. I made all the mistakes you could make. Um,
Yeah. Sounds like you just took a flamethrower to your book of matches and incinerated them in the first 4 hours.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. What's
And then at
insane,
150,
what's insane is I think I was still top 100 finishers at 13 and a half hours that year versus this year, I think the top 100 was barely over 10 hours. Uh,
yeah,
so
that's crazy. It's so
this,
fast.
yeah, it's come a long way since
Yeah.
that year. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a road race this year,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Um, I actually want to come back to Unbound in a bit, but uh, before we do, I want to talk about Snake and Quickstar and your watts.
Yeah. Let's
Holy
dive
moly.
in.
You Project Echelon, you're racing with this year, and they did a post 1750 watt max, 1509 10-second
I think
average.
it was 1710 max or something. I don't think it was 1750, but
Okay, we're taking 40 watts away from you. 1710 for uh, to compare uh, Jumbo Visma, no, Jumbo Lisa Bike, sorry, was bragging about Wout Van Aert's comeback, and he did some racing like right after your Memorial weekend, and they were bragging about his. I mean, did they say 1070 max? It says max 1070, and they're bragging about that. I mean, I know he's got this huge
mm,
comeback.
that
I can't
seems
believe it was 1070, but I just
that
looked it up
seems
before we
low. I
got
think
on.
I've seen.
It does seem low, but they're bragging about it. But how big is 1710?
I mean, 1710 is huge. That was like a 80-watt PR for me. So, it was, yeah, that's a huge number. That's a number I didn't, last year I would have expected to maybe never see that number. This year I've been doing a lot of sprint work and I've been like definitely pushing that bar up pretty consistently. So it's still I surprised myself a little bit, but not, uh, I think it's, I don't know. It makes sense, I think, given the sprint work that I've been doing. But it was a surprise to myself for sure.
Have you always pushed big watts?
I would say not yes and no. Depends who you're asking, I guess. Like for my size, yeah, but um, there's a lot of crit guys that are doing 17, 18, 2000 watts even, but they're 10 to 15 kilos heavier than me usually.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Yeah,
That's a big size difference right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Um, how important are watts? And I want to put this into perspective. Um, how important are watts and the measurement of watts in determining somebody's success?
I think it depends what metrics you're looking at. Um, a little bit that they're important to a point, but there's a lot of people who get some crazy results without that many watts, and there's a lot of guys who have a lot of watts and don't get a lot of results. So there's a lot more to the game than just that number that you're seeing. And like even for me, I think my max power at Snake Alley last year was like 1250 or something. Um, versus this year at Snake it was 1620. And at Quickstar was 1710. So like, and I still won Snake Alley last year. So like it's not all about the watts. There's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad to hear you say that. Um, I'm an old guy, like grew up without a power meter. Um, and B, it seems like, I don't know, teams, people, coaches are making decisions on riders based on watts, based on numbers. And race acumen is still important, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, other than, I don't know, I've said it before, but bike racing is equal parts fitness, aka watts, aka the heart lung machine, equal parts NASCAR, bumping elbows in the corners, and equal parts the game of chess. And watts is only one piece of that equation.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You need to be able to push the power to be there, but um, once you're there, there's a lot of the craft that you can work with to change the game in your favor, where you don't need as many watts as the other guy.
Yeah, you and Stephen Bassett, your teammate, recent national criterium champ, were at Snake and had a strategy, and it looks like we're able to implement that. Tell me about your strategy and how it worked and how it ended up. I mean, obviously, we know, spoiler alert, how it came out, but just tell me about the strategy of the day because that's not a number based on watts. It's a game of chess.
Yeah, so it was Steve and Matt and myself, Matt Zimmer, um, and our strategy was pretty much try to get Steve up the road and just have him keep hitting it, and see if he can get away because that's his best way to win. And then I can pretty much just follow everybody around as long as he's doing that and have a relatively easy ride where, like, I have to follow all the attacks, but nobody's really worried about dropping me because they're more focused on chasing Steve. And our hope was that he would be able to get away, and then like, I could still be in the next bunch back and win the bunch sprint. And it didn't work out. He never got the separation he needed to hold that. But that was the beauty of our strategy was then I'm still right there in the next bunch and ready to win the sprint. So and then yeah, Steve uh, was there. He led the sprint out for me and just kept the speed high down that finish hill, and that's the sprint I wanted, and so it worked out perfect.
Awesome. I saw a picture of him running up the Snake. What happened there, and how did he get back in?
Yeah, he was trying to attack. It was pretty early, I think like fourth or fifth lap maybe, and he just came into the snake with a little bit too much speed, and there's a brick missing on that like first switchback, I think it was. Um, and he kind of hit that gap with his wheel, and I don't know exactly what happened, but he slid the front wheel out, just took too much speed into the snake when he was trying to attack, and then luckily he was already the first rider when he went down, so everybody had to kind of get around him, which gave him a second to get up and collect himself and run up the hill. And I think he had to straighten his bars at the top of the hill and then chase back on. Um, and
Did he chase back on or take a free lap?
no, there's no free laps at Snake Alley, so he
Oof.
had to chase back on. I think he was because he started from the front, he wasn't too far behind. But yeah, he had to make an effort there.
That's always my strategy going up hills is start at the front and you can fade to the back and still be in the pack
Yeah,
at the top. So it works out even if you're running.
yeah.
Hashtag up the Snake. Is it sometimes just chaos going up that thing?
Oh yeah. This year the with adding the block in beneath the snake again definitely took a little bit of the chaos away compared to like the last 2 years where they've run it straight down the hill into the bottom of the snake where you're carrying uh, uh over 20 miles an hour into that first turn. Um, yeah, the new course that's kind of reverting to the old course takes a little bit of that chaos away, but it's still always madness, especially the first two or three laps. And then everything starts to like pretty much anybody who wasn't able to make it into the top 20 by that point is more or less out of the race. And then it calms down a little bit. But
Yeah. How big a group was it at the finish?
I'm actually not totally sure. I think it was somewhere around 20, could have been plus or minus five
Yeah.
on that number.
That's a decent sized group.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think it's a bigger group than it was 2 years ago. It was only like six riders, I think, and then last year was probably about the same size, like 15 or 20.
Dig it. Yeah, it's definitely the kind of race that can split things up. Um, Well, let's fast forward 2 days to the Quick Star Criterium, and you won there as well. And my question is this: you're teammates with Matt Zimmer,
Yeah,
and his hometown is Davenport, Iowa.
yeah.
Did you feel any kind of remorse or regret taking the win away from Zimmer on his hometown course in front of all his fans, family, those who got him started racing where he cut his teeth? Did you feel any kind of regret for that?
No, I mean, and the reason is that I don't think I was really taking the win away from Matt. Uh,
I think he would say the same thing.
it wasn't between me and him for the win. It was between me and Ben Oliver, or whoever was uh gonna be in that position. On the day it was Ben Oliver, he was second. And Matt unfortunately crashed early on and didn't even finish the race, or get to race that much of it. Um, but and Matt and I have talked about this a lot actually. Like a win's a win for the team, so he's just as happy to have me there winning as he would have been to win himself.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and totally, if there was a scenario where we could get him up the road solo, then that's a winning situation for him, and that would be awesome. But that's just not how the race played out.
Yeah, no, he's a good dude. I'm teasing you on that.
Yeah,
And he said the same. Crash is a crash, and again, no free lap, which kind of surprises me. Um,
yeah.
Not that I used to live on free laps, but
No,
I certainly appreciated them.
yeah. I think on that day at Quickstar, they should do free laps. I get it for Snake Alley. I think it makes sense on that one to not have free laps, but pretty much every other day that weekend, they make sense to me. They should have them, I think. But also I understand why they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, One of the reasons I wanted to have you on is to take a break from gravel and make road racing great again. But Memorial Weekend includes the Friday night. Um, what's that thing called? Friday Night
Friday Night
Fever.
Fever. Yep.
Yeah, that replaced the old Burlington to Burlington road race, um, which that's cool. I think crit in downtown Burlington's kind of fun. Snake Alley Criterium on Saturday, Weed Park in Muscatine on Monday, and that thing has been on that course for 1,000 years. The Harper's Cyclery in Muscatine uh, has helped put that thing on. The Harper name is legendary in Iowa. And it was fun to see Greg race again. I used to race with his brother Billy. Always stayed in the Harper Hotel Memorial Weekend, which was their family home.
Yeah.
Um, but and then Monday, it's moved around a little bit from Moline and then Rock Island, and now settled into Davenport. Quick Star. Why why should Memorial Weekend along the Mississippi River be on everybody's agenda?
It's a super uh, good good weekend of racing. The crits are hard there. Like I have this issue with a lot of crits that they're not hard enough to make the race very much more than just a game of chicken in the last 10 laps. Um, that's kind of how the Saturday race at Armed Forces is. It's like we roll around for 70 minutes and then we play chicken 60 times into 60 corners, and then whoever wins the last game of that gets set up the best, and then there's like a sprint that does come down to watts, but it also comes down to the positioning that you get from just not touching the brakes first uh, into the corners, and the that racing style is a little bit frustrating to me sometimes, and I think to a lot of people. But the racing in Quad Cities is different. The Friday night is a little bit of that, but the Snake Alley, that feature just breaks up the race in a much different way, um, where it is it's more than just who's the most fearless. It comes down to who can do the watts at the right time, and figure out how to make other people do the work instead of doing it yourself, and all those other tactical games that I think are the fun part of bike racing. And the Quick Star is the same way, and Melon City's the same way. Melon City is a little bit faster, doesn't usually break up as much, although it was the smallest finishing group of any of the days this weekend. They're just really dynamic races. So I think they're great, and the community support there is great, and the prize money and all the stuff that comes with that is makes it a really good weekend.
Awesome. We want to make Memorial Weekend great again.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to see it.
That was I had success there my first year, kind of. I have some good stories from that weekend, but nonetheless, it's fun. We've always enjoyed going. My first year was nearly 40 years ago, 1986. 12 years before you were born.
Yeah,
Hashtag I'm an old guy. I actually just ran into Dan Schaefer this weekend, who's an old, um, his USA cycling number is, I think he said 12,000 something, something, something. Like mine's 48 something, something, something.
uh-huh.
And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, yeah,
And his is 12,000 something, something. That tells
yeah.
you how long
Wow.
he's been racing. But he and I reminisced about Memorial Weekend. It's just been such a great weekend for so many years and is so fun. And I love to see people talking about it and taking it serious and coming from Colorado to race it and dreaming about it. So I love that. Um, I have two questions. One is, and it's again kind of focused on the world of road, and you've committed to the world of road racing, and I love that. And it's not everybody does. For instance, I saw Torbjorn rode this weekend the at Unbound, and he was not in a Project Echelon kit, and yet last year when we chatted, he was slated to join the team this year, and then he won Big Sugar, and his plans changed, and now he's fully focused on the World of Gravel and the Lifetime Grand Prix. Um, why do you stay in road? Like it's so tempting. So many people have migrated from road racing to gravel and at the top level, that Lifetime Grand Prix. What keeps you on the road? You've even raced, maybe Unbound is why you don't race Unbound, but what keeps you on the road? Why is road still
Really, I
awesome?
mean, a huge part of it is just the opportunities that I've had on the road. I think a lot of guys go to gravel when they don't have, well, I mean, in Torbjorn's case, he made a decision there where he had opportunities on both. But I think the opportunity for him was a little bit better on the gravel, as far as the support he was going to get for the season. Um, so, I think a lot of it comes down to that and to the money side of things, and maybe people don't realize that as much, that a lot of times those decisions are just, how can I sustain this for myself? How can I uh, make this? At the end of the day, they're both riding your bike, and it's how can I make this work for myself? And for me, I just enjoy road racing a lot, and I some people disagree with this opinion, but I think gravel in a lot of ways is just road racing, and it's trending more and more that direction. And I think there was in the early days of it, it was separate, but it was less because of the events themselves and more because of who was doing them, I think. Um, and now that we're seeing all most of the riders doing those races have found great success on the road, and there's the same tactics as the road, and they're longer races, but they're not that much longer than other road races, and the whole self-supported thing is different, but in a lot of ways, that I know a lot of guys who will go race those races and they won't even bring a flat kit. That like it's either they finish in the front group or they flat out they have mechanical whatever, and then their day's just done. They're not worried about finishing the race. And so the only difference between that and a road race to me is in a road race you have a team car with support and you get back in the race versus in a gravel race. Maybe they bring a flat kit or like a tire plug or whatever, but they're not bringing an extra tube because if the tire plug doesn't work right away, then they're going to be a couple minutes down and then they're never going to make it back into the race, right? So versus on the road, you have the team car and you get the quick wheel change, and it's the same thing as the tire plug more or less. And if you have a bigger issue than that, then sometimes you're just out of the race. So uh, to me, they're kind of the same in a lot of ways. And just for me, I've had the opportunity to keep going on the road, and so I've taken that opportunity.
You talk about money, and I'm going full scale here, and um, I guess we don't know what like a Keegan Swenson total income package is, but we know Wout Van Aert makes freaking millions of dollars a year. So the top of the gravel game does not equal the top of the European road game does. And there's, I mean, holy moly, there's a bunch of Americans. I can't wait to talk about Tour de France and who to watch, what Americans to watch. Zimmer and I are going to get together for an episode before the Tour de France because there's a lot of great freaking Americans racing in Europe. Is that still a dream on the road, or is the dream the Keegan Swenson, Peter Stetina, Alexei Vermillion route to race the Lifetime Grand Prix?
No, for me, it's to do the top races in Europe. That's all I really care about. Or not all I care about, but like that's where I want to take things. Um, yeah, I could see myself doing a year chasing some of those big gravel events, maybe do the Lifetime Grand Prix, but that's I think for me, I think there's still a chance to move up on the road, and I think once I see that chance is pretty much gone, then that's when I maybe make that decision to go towards gravel, because there's some like make your own opportunity there. Um, but yeah, for me, it's the racing in Europe.
I like to hear that. I appreciate hearing that. I sometimes wonder if that dream is fading away in the U.S. and everyone just focuses on what they can do here at not just Lifetime races, but Steamboat Gravel and Gravel Locos and things like Rattlesnake Gravel Grind had a decent payout, and Core 4 has a decent payout, and Rule of Three. Like there's some big gravel races where you can actually make some money and get some publicity for whoever you end up putting on your the back of your kit.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of the young guys doing the gravel stuff are still looking at it as a potential springboard into uh, the Pro Tour, the World Tour over in Europe. Like that, they're looking at those gravel races as opportunities to show that they have that strength to compete on the road. And like we even saw Keegan Swenson do Road Worlds, a couple. What was that? 2022, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I I I don't actually know Keegan, and I'm just speculating here, but I think that if he could have had a good result there and could have had a big contract offered to him from one of those world teams, I don't necessarily think he wouldn't have taken it and would have stayed with gravel. But also I know that uh, he's very comfortable making a comfortable living doing the gravel
For
stuff,
sure, for sure.
and he has a lot of flexibility to do what he wants, right? He has like the six, I think, lifetime races. And then other than that, it's like choose your own schedule, uh,
Hmm.
train where you want, just do everything how you want to do it. So that there's uh, a lot of enticing factors to doing the gravel thing.
Yeah, true. I've actually talked about Keegan this very thing with guys like Peter Stetina and Boz, and I don't know who I asked, but I was like, "Can you see Keegan ever going to a world tour team?" And they just laughed, and they're like, "Are you kidding me? Like he's making $500,000 racing 8 gravel races a year. Why would he go on a minimum rider contract, make 30 grand a year in Europe, and race 180 days for somebody else?"
Right. Well, that's the thing,
Um,
right? Is like he would never take the minimum contract, but if there was somebody who was like, "Hey, we think you could be like a legitimate star rider. We want to put you on like maybe not a top tier like Wout Van Aert salary, but like a you know mid high tier salary and
mhm,
give you race opportunities," then I would think that he would at least heavily consider it.
yeah. No different maybe than college athletes these days. Hey, I could go make 100 grand playing ball at Texas versus Northern Iowa, where I make $12.38.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so they say never forget where you're from, right? How how do you remember your days at Ivolo? Like how have you uh like never forgotten where you're from?
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the most fun days I've had racing. And I'm still having fun days racing. Still having a bunch of them. But that development time was so key for me and like transforming my view of what I was capable of. And so one of the like I try to connect with those guys a lot and um, yeah, like help them maybe to realize that those are some of the best years you're gonna have, and like realize how much potential and how much support they have there. Yeah, Mike Reed's doing great things with that program, and now they're gonna. I'm curious to see how things shake out next year as they transition to being the EF um, Devo team. It won't be well. I don't know. I don't know if the name will stay Volo, but I kind of think it might just change to EF Education Devo or whatever. And I think that program is gonna have to evolve a little bit with that change, but uh, that they're in that situation because of all the hard work that Mike's done and the rest of that organization and a lot of the good results that those riders have had because of it. Um, and I guess I would be included in that a little bit.
Well, you have definitely taken a step to permanize that your time on Evolo. Tell me about your tattoo.
Yeah. I have the Evolo logo tattooed on my butt. Um, and yeah, we were just hanging out at a training camp. Um, that must have been 2021. Had an easy day. We were like, what activities are we gonna do today? I don't know exactly who said what.
That was your
So
team
somebody,
activity.
somebody was like, we could go get tattoos, kind of as a joke. Like nobody really thought that much, and then maybe it was me said like we could all get the Evolo tattoo, and then somebody was like, no, I don't want that, whatever. And I was like, I would legitimately do it, but I'm not gonna pay the whole like, $200 to get the tattoo. And then everybody was like, oh, well, I'll chip in. And then everybody decided they would chip in if I got the tattoo. Um, so yeah, we went down to the tattoo parlor, all 10 of us or whatever at that camp, and they watched me get my my ass tatted.
Which cheek?
It's the left cheek.
Left cheek. So are you
Yeah.
getting Project Echelon on your right cheek?
We'll see. I mean, for me, like with the Devo team thing, like it's a little bit different than Echelon, which is like it's not a Devo team. It's just a team. So like I'm not like obviously we race against Avolo, but uh, it, it's a little bit less of a competitor. Like if I was to make a different move off of Echelon, then I have this Echelon tattoo, but I'm not on the team and they're a competitor. And then to me, that's like a weird. I don't know why I have that distinction, but for Avola, like that's where I am from. That's where I developed. That's where. So I kind of like having that tattoo.
A, all respect. B, never forget where you're from. C, I'm starting a GoFundMe page to get a Project Echelon. And then if you go to EF Education or Yumbo, we're just going to keep it going. And when somebody wants to see your resumes, you just drop your drawer
All right,
and uh, and you're all good.
all right,
You in on that?
yeah, sure,
All right, you heard it here, folks. Hey, Zimmer, are you listening? Zimmer will get that done for sure.
yeah.
All right, man, what's up next? Where can we watch you this summer?
Headed to Tour de Beauce next week, up in Quebec, and then I'll be at the last 7 days of Toad,
Hmm.
and then uh, still working out some details, but probably I'll do Boise Twilight, Gastown, and then head back over to Europe at the end of July to do Parenchi and Crabry Elite. And then after that, who knows? There's been some different talks. I would like to get back to Bucks County Crit if we don't have other racing on the schedule, but it sounds like we might have some international stuff on the schedule, which is definitely going to take precedent.
Dig it. I didn't ask about this, but you're from Colorado. You ever do the Mount Evans hill climb?
Yeah, I have done that several times. Now it's Mount Blue Sky. There's a name change to the mountain.
Wait a minute. It's not Mount Evans
It's
anymore?
not Mount Evans anymore. That was,
Wow, when did that
I
happen?
think last year.
Dang, that's newsflash to me, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
I did Mount Evans 1987, and it was hard.
yeah, it was very hard. I won the 15-16 Colorado State Championship hill climb.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
whatever year
I
that
don't think
was,
it's fair
20
calling it a hill
2013.
climb, do you?
I mean, what else is it?
It's a freaking mountain. It's
Yeah, okay.
cold to cold to blue sky or whatever that is. Um, 7,500 feet of climbing from Idaho Springs on up, man. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's super hard, but
That's awesome. Well, folks, your Colorado 15-16 state hill climb champion, Cade Bickmore. Where can we find you on your socials? what do you keep up with on socials?
Yeah, you can find me on anything. Twitter, Instagram. Instagram is probably the main one. Uh, Facebook at C Bickmore.
I love that. Do you like swapping the C for an E and trading places with them in your name?
What do you mean?
Bickmore.
Oh yeah,
Bickmore.
yeah.
I love that. It took me a hot minute in looking at your Instagram. I was like, he's got Bickmore on there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a perfect um, play on your name. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, man. Good luck the rest of the season. It's been fun getting to know you, and congrats on the snake. And also, I mean, hey, maybe we'll see you at Waterworks on
Yeah,
the world's flattest criterium.
maybe.
There's literally 2 feet of rise on
Yeah.
that course.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt and I rode through there the other day, but I didn't actually race. I was on the e-bike, so I ripped the home stretch on the e-bike.
You were on the e-bike, like, was that? It was 2 days after Memorial Weekend, and you and Zimmer show up at somebody's birthday party, Yuli's birthday party. Project Echelon is just like bragging about all your watts and how powerful this dude is and throwing it down. And you and Zimmer show up, and Zimmer, who crashed out at everything and all that, he like rode his real live actual bike, and you're on a freaking e-bike to get out to the Yuli Fest. I thought that was ironically hilarious.
Yeah, well, Matt said he needed the training that day, and I needed the rest, so
Fair enough. All those watts take it out of you, right?
yeah.
All right, dude. Thanks tons, and hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave.
Peace.
See ya.
I got to thank Cade for making time to hop on a call with me. That was a fun conversation. I bet none of you thought that it would all lead to an asstat discussion, but that's why this pod is so awesome. We have no idea where it's going, and we go where no pod has gone before. As he said, you can follow him on Instagram and Facebook and all the other social media. Just look for Cade Bickmore, or just check out his handle, C Bickmore. I love that. We'll see you all at Memorial Weekend races next year, and look forward to seeing Cade defend his title at Snake, Friday Night Fever, and Quick Star Criterium. Now, as far as this podcast goes, I really appreciate you tuning in each week, and I would really love it if you would rate and review this show on your favorite podcast platform. And if you want to support the show financially, I would welcome that. Just look for Bike Talk with Dave at buymeacoffee.com and drop a few coins in the cup. If you do, I'd love to send you a sticker. And be sure to check out the Bike Talk with Dave channel on YouTube, or go to biketalk.bike to stream every episode. And don't forget, if you're interested in joining Cade's almost teammate, Torbjorn Road, at Gravel Worlds this August, use the code BikeTalkWithDave when registering for Gravel Worlds, and you'll save 10%. And another race you might want to do is the Core 4. It's got some road in it, and it's just a couple of weeks before Gravel Worlds. And this year they are boasting a $10,000 prize purse. Check it out. Who's ready for some Core 4 news? After a huge spike in riders and a super thank you to everyone for coming out this year, these guys jumped right back into the fire. It's no surface untouched again for 2024, because Core 424 has a sweet sound to it, no doubt. New routes, new distances, and a new you. That's right, y'all, they are mixing it up with more surprises and delights. New for 24 is the Core 40 distance. Just a bump up from the 20 mile, and still has all the farmscapes and B roads and champagne gravel you'd expect from the folks at Core 4, just without the single track. They're telling us 60 is the new 50, miles that is. It's a no-surfaced, untouched, podium-eligible route with all the cats in addition to their marquee 100-mile event. It's the perfect blend of competition and community. We want Core 4 to be on your event calendar for 2024. Jump on Bike Reg today. Snag your spot before this event reaches its cap. Come ride the wave and get more bodies on bikes. It's blazing hot action every year, and they'll keep the fire stoked all winter long with the 20, 40, 60, or 100-mile route. Core 424 has something for everyone. It's time for the next time. Let's go! Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope you have a great week. And remember that nothing compares with the simple pleasure of riding a bicycle.